Welcome back to Psych Vids. Today we are focusing on the Zeigarnik Effect. It's this absolutely amazing psychological quirk that explains so much. Everything from your late night anxiety to why you literally just cannot stop binge watching that one TV show. I mean, have you ever wondered why your brain just absolutely refuses to let go of stuff you haven't finished? Well, we're going to break that all down and explain exactly why that happens in today's explainer.
So let's dive right into this. Why does an unsent email haunt you at 2 in the morning? It's a highly relatable problem, isn't it? Just staring at the ceiling, completely agonizing over some half-written draft or maybe an awkward conversation you walked away from. Meanwhile, your brain is just totally ignoring all the amazing stuff you actually got done that day. You crush a huge project at work, but nope, those random unfinished emails from 3 months ago are what keep popping into your head. Why does our brain cling to the undone stuff like a life raft?
Well, there's actually this one simple trick to turn that exact anxiety into your absolute biggest productivity asset. We're going to explore a 100-year-old psychological mystery to solve this whole thing, and I'll share exactly how to fix it with you. But you know what? I'm going to leave that loop open for just a little bit to prove a point. Let that sit in your working memory while we jump back in time. All right, Section 1, Waiters, Memory, and Science. To really wrap our heads around why our brains crave closure so badly, we've got to travel back to a bustling 1920s cafe in Vienna. Psychologist Kurt Lewin was just sitting there observing, and he noticed something totally fascinating. He saw that the waiters could remember these incredibly complex, unpaid orders perfectly, like they didn't even need to write a single thing down. But the absolute second the bill was paid, poof, the memory completely vanished. If you asked them what a table ordered just 5 minutes after paying, the waiter had absolutely no idea. It was just gone.
Lewin's student, a researcher named Bluma Zeigarnik, thought this was wild and took the observations straight to the lab. She gave participants a bunch of tasks, puzzles, math problems, that kind of thing. Some of them they were allowed to finish, but others, she deliberately interrupted them. And the staggering result here, she found that participants recalled those interrupted tasks up to 90% better than the ones they actually completed. The brain simply would not let the unfinished tasks go. No way.
Which brings us to Section 2, the science of tension. Okay, so the core mechanism behind why our working memory hoards all this unfinished business comes down to what Kurt Lewin coined psychic tension. Basically, this means an open task creates a very real active mental load. And if you think about it from an evolutionary perspective, this acts like a survival mechanism, right? Remembering what you haven't finished, like, say, gathering food or dealing with some kind of threat, that actively pushes you to resolve the situation. Your brain creates this task-specific tension that just keeps the work active in your memory until it's finally resolved. And the difference here is profound. Think of an unfinished task as an open loop. It's like a buzzing alarm of cognitive tension and mental clutter just ringing in your head. But a finished task, that provides cognitive release. Once a task is done, the brain literally wipes the slate clean to save energy. It's a goal-directed system. Your brain rewards you with a nice, peaceful blank slate, but only when it gets that closure. Now, time for a quick modern science check. As we know, psychology has had a bit of a replication reckoning in recent years. So while Zeigarnik's original data was totally groundbreaking, modern studies do show this effect has some nuance to it. It heavily depends on how meaningful the task actually is to you, and of course, your personal motivation levels. But look, in our everyday experience, the effect remains incredibly robust for sure. Moving on to Section 3, Weaponizing Cognitive Tension. Let's see how modern tech actually hijacks your brain using this exact principle. Tech platforms and media companies deliberately create these open loops just to keep you hooked. They use TV cliffhangers, gamified app streaks on learning platforms, and those little progress bars telling you that your profile is only 80% done. They absolutely know that an incomplete circle on your screen translates directly to a stressful, incomplete loop right inside your brain. So the crucial takeaway here is that everything from a little video game quest marker to an abandoned cart email in your inbox, it's often a dark pattern designed specifically to trigger the Zeigarnik effect. Think about Netflix's next episode autoplay or an unread social media notification. They literally deny your brain rest by constantly introducing new psychic tension before you can even wipe the slate clean from the last task you were doing. But hey, we don't have to be victims to our own psychology. Let's look at Section 4, Reversing the Curse.
All right, now it is finally time to close that meta cliffhanger I left you with earlier. Based on the research, we can actually hack our own psychology to use this tension as a high-value tool instead of just a source of constant low-level anxiety. We've pulled 3 actionable strategies from our sources to reverse this curse: the Hemingway trick, the 5-minute rule, and the brain dump. Let's break these down one by one so you can start using them literally today.
First up is the Hemingway trick. So the famous author Ernest Hemingway used this method of intentional incompletion. He would actually stop writing for the day right in the middle of a sentence. By stopping mid-task like that, your brain maintains that open loop overnight. It unconsciously builds up all this momentum, which makes starting the next day entirely effortless because your brain is practically begging to finish the thought. It's a real game changer. Second is the 5-minute rule. Look, when you're procrastinating, it's usually the planning and the initial resistance that hurt the most, right? But if you initiate an intimidating task for just 5 minutes, you open the loop. Simply starting a task massively reduces that resistance. And once you begin, the Zeigarnik Effect just kicks right in, creating this mental drive that almost forces you to keep going, just so you can get that sweet, sweet cognitive release.
And finally, Section 5, closing your mental loops.
This is for when you simply can't finish things right now, and you actually want to get some sleep. Having too many open loops just leads to overwhelm and decision fatigue. So try following this simple closure ritual. First, identify the active loops. Second, write them down externally. This is the brain dump, which basically gives your brain permission to forget them for a bit. And third, schedule a clear completion time. Research actually shows that by simply making a concrete plan to finish a task later, you essentially trick your brain into releasing that cognitive tension, even if the task isn't actually done yet. How cool is that?
I want you to think about your own life right now. What is one open loop task on your to-do list that is just driving you absolutely insane? Apply what we've learned in this explainer today. Pick that one small unfinished task and either start it using the 5-minute rule or write it down to clear out that mental bandwidth. It's time to take back control of your cognitive tension.
Your brain is basically hardwired to finish what it starts, so use that as a tool and don't let it become a burden. Finish strong or start smart. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode.